Welcome to South Central Regional Library. I'm Angela from the Manitou branch, and today I want to talk to you about something that we're doing here at the library to celebrate Earth Day. And what we hope to do is encourage kids to plant a seed that they can grow in their garden. So over the next week or so, we'll be offering a little seed starting kit that you can pick up for your child at any of our branches. If you want to call ahead and reserve one, that's fine too, or you can just pop in and pick one up. And each little kit will consist of a bag of soil to plant your seed in, and a sunflower seed. And the reason we chose a sunflower is because they're very easy to grow, they grow quickly, and they are wonderful in the garden to attract pollinators like bees. And their seeds also provide food during the winter if you leave them in the garden for birds like blue jays and chickadees. So sunflowers are really a good plant to grow in the garden. Now the only thing that we're not providing with our kit is a pot to grow your seed in, because we thought it would be a lot more fun to show you how to make a recyclable, biodegradable pot that you can plant your sunflower seed into. And all we're going to use is paper rolls and newspaper to make this little paper tube pot, which is absolutely perfect for an individual seed and is very easy for a child to make, or to make these rolled newspaper recyclable seed pots, which are great either for starting a seed or for transplanting seedlings as they start to grow before they go into the garden. And we've also got this little square pot, which I'll show you how to make later on in this video series. The only other things that you're likely to need are a marker pen, a ruler, a pair of scissors, a little tray of water, and that's about it. Let's get ready to start growing some seeds. Okay, so we're going to get started first with this little cardboard paper tube pot, which is, as I said, very easy for a child to make, and it's quite sturdy and very good for just one individual seed. So what you're going to need is a paper tube, of course, which we'll start off by flattening in half, like so, and just kind of pressing along the edges, the creases, to make a crease. Then you're going to fold it over halfway. And again, you don't have to be absolutely precise with your folds. And then fold it back the other way in half and crease along that edge. So now you've got basically a square with 4 folds, right? Now what you'll do is you'll take your ruler, line it up along the bottom edge of the cardboard or the paper tube, and just make a line with your marker the width of the ruler right there. Do that on the other side as well. There we go. And then what you can do, just open it up, take your scissors, and just snip up to the line that you drew along each of those folds. So now you've made 4 little flaps. Fold the flaps back like this. Okay, actually I didn't cut right down, so I'll just cut that a little bit further. There. So fold those flaps back down like that, like so. And then take your saucer or little cup of water and just dip the flaps until they're wet. Just the flaps, like so. And then what you want to do is fold them in. So you make a nice little square. Just push it down inside and then just put it on a tray or in a yogurt pot or whatever you have available, something flat to put it on, and leave it there to dry for a couple of hours or overnight if you prefer. And once the water dries on the bottom of the pot, it makes a nice hard seal that doesn't come apart when you put your soil in and you plant your seed. So that's how you make a paper roll pot. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make these plant pots from newspaper. And you simply make them with a sheet, just a regular sheet of newspaper and aluminum cans. And you can use different size of cans to make the different size of pots, which is handy because you can use the smaller pots for starting seeds or for little plants, and you can use the bigger pots to start transplanting your seedlings when they get a little bit bigger. And when it comes time to put your plants into the garden, you can simply just bury the cardboard pot into the dirt, which means that you don't have to disturb the roots of the plant that's growing, which will eventually just, and the pot will just biodegrade, and the roots will grow through it, and your plants are undisturbed when they go into the garden, which is really good for the plants. The other advantage, of course, is you're not ending up with single-use plastic pots that end up in the landfill, because you're using just biodegradable recycled materials for your pots. So I'm going to show you first how to make the small pot. And you just take a sheet of newspaper, just a regular sheet. You don't want to use anything that's glossy. That's one thing to remember when you make these pots. You just want to use newspaper with flat inks on it. Fold your newspaper sheet lengthways. Then take your can, and you can see this one's a bit beaten up because I've used it quite a few times, but it doesn't really matter as long as you've got the general shape of the can. Line it up against the bottom edge of the folded edge of the newspaper so that you've got about a 3/4 of an overlap of the width of the can at the bottom there. And just start rolling it up around the can. Try to make the bottom line fairly neat and even if you can. And another little tip is do not roll it too tightly around the can, because otherwise it's very difficult to get the can out sometimes. So once you've rolled it up, then what you want to do is you want to start folding these pieces of newspaper at the bottom into this depression in the bottom of the can, starting with this sort of end flap. You want that to sort of be nicely underneath where it's going to stay in place. So you just start scrunching the paper into there. Just pull your can out slightly and then continue to scrunch the newspaper up and into that sort of little hollow there to hold it and make the pot a little bit firmer. And then just pull your can out and just scrunch down on the bottom inside just with your fingers, just to kind of make everything nice and tight in there. And these do hold together surprisingly well, especially once you've put the soil in them. They do tend to last very well, certainly until you need to, repot or plant your plants out in the garden. So they're surprisingly sturdy. Now to make the larger pot, again, you'll take a sheet of newspaper, but this time you'll just fold it about 1/3 of the way in instead of in half, and then take your larger can and again line it up along the folded edge about 3/4 of the way up the side of the can or the bottom of the can, and start rolling the larger can to the bottom like so. Said, you don't have to be really neat and fussy, but I like to try and make it as even as I can. And then you do exactly the same thing. You just start scrunching the newspaper into that little depression at the bottom of the can. Pull your can out slightly and keep scrunching the newspaper into that bottom part like that. Pull your can out, and there you have a little bit larger pot for whatever purposes you need it for. So that's how you make very simple newspaper plant pots. So for the final plant pots that I want to show you today, I'm going to show you how to make these little square pots, which are a little bit more sturdy, but they are a little bit more complicated to make, and there's a lot of folding involved in them. But as I say, they're nice little pots that are very sturdy and tend to stand up quite well on their own. With the rounder pots, you probably need to put them in a tray or very close to each other to keep them together and to stop them from falling over. But these ones will stay together really, really well. So I'll show you how to make one of these. And again, you just need one sheet of newspaper. and you fold it in half this time the other way. So you want to just make sure that you fold the newspaper in half that way, like so. Make sure you get a good crease to start with. Then you turn the paper and fold it in half the other way. Just make your creases as good as you can make them to begin with. Open it up and take this corner flap and fold it to that middle fold line that you've got there. So you just fold it up like so. So you've made kind of a triangle, and then you do the same with the other one on the other side. Take the other corner and fold it to the middle. Again, make another triangle right there. Then you take this piece, the first flap, not both pieces of the newspaper, just this first piece, and you fold it down to where those triangles are, just to kind of meet it right there. Then you fold it back over this way. So it almost looks like a little hat, doesn't it, right there? Okay, then you turn the whole thing over and you fold this flap, this side, into that center crease line again. And again, just make sure you give it a good crease. And you take the other side and do the same thing. Fold it into that center line, like so, so that you've got like a little rocket ship shape there. And then you take this part of the newspaper and you fold it up again to that line where you've just made these two little sort of pockets. So you fold it up to that line, and then you fold it down over those two little squares. Make it nice and sharp crease. Fold it back the other way. This is just to kind of define that crease and make it really strong. And so now you've created sort of a flap here. And this is the little tricky part. You've got this flap, right? You want to insert the flap behind these two little squares, behind the sort of the folds in there, to form sort of like a pocket. So you just insert that behind those two little squares, like so, if you can see what I'm doing. And then just kind of make sure that it's in there at the edges. Like, just make sure you tuck it in at the edges. You can no longer see the two little squares inside, and you just flatten it like so. Right. What you do is you take this side and you just take one corner of this and fold it down to where that little pocket is. That's where you just fold one edge and crease that fold. Now, what you do is you turn it over, open it up, and it will start to form a square. Okay, you just fold it out into a square, and where you folded this flap up to the center line, it will automatically want to lay down like that at the bottom. So you end up with a square pot, and what I like to do is I just like to go around and kind of push the corners and square them up a little, give them a little crease on each side like that. And then when you turn it over, there's your square pot. Okay, so now comes the fun part. Now that we have made our little pot and it's dried and it's nice and hard on the bottom, we can plant our seed. And you should have everything you need to plant. You'll need your little bag of soil, your seeds, some water, a pot, and maybe a pencil. So let's get started. And what you want to do is fill your little pot with soil. So let's just, whoops, I'm not making a very neat job of this, am I? Doesn't matter if you spill a little. That's why I've got a tray underneath to catch the dirt, because then I can actually pour that dirt into another pot and reuse it, right? So just kind of shake it so that it sort of settles in the little pot. You want to come fairly close to the top like that. And now make a little hole in the middle of the pot. Now you can use a pencil or you can use your finger. It doesn't really matter. And for a sunflower seed, you want it to be about 1/2 inch deep, okay? Now, how deep to plant a seed is usually shown on the seed packet. When you go to the store and you buy a package of seeds, it usually tells you on the back how deep you're supposed to plant the seed. So here's my little sunflower seed right here. I'm just going to pop that into the hole there. And then I'm going to take a little bit more soil and I'm just going to sprinkle it over the top and just pat it down very gently. You don't want to really sort of force it in there. You just want to pat it down gently. And then what I like to do, instead of pouring water into the pot, I just like to take a spray bottle and just spray some water to moisten it like that. And as you can see, the top is just nice and moist. And then what you can do is you can take your pot, and it's probably a good idea to put it inside a yogurt pot or a margarine tub or something like that with your other little pots. Like if you've got extra soil, you can certainly plant more seeds in your other pots. And I've got several here that I've already planted today. And then what you want to do, you just want to make sure that they stay moist. Put them in a warm place where they're going to get lots of sun, and you can cover them with something like plastic wrap, which will keep the heat in, and just cover the whole pot until the seedlings start to emerge. And once they start to grow and get little leaves on them, then you can sort of start to peel this up and allow a little air movement in until they start to get too big and you don't need the plastic wrap anymore. And then what you can do, as soon as they have 4 leaves on each plant, you can transplant them into a bigger pot so that they've got lots of room to grow before they go into the garden. So that's how to start your seeds. The other thing you could also do, of course, if you just had a couple of little pots like this, once your bag is empty, you can just turn it upside down and pop that over the top of the plants, and that'll act like a little greenhouse for them. So that's how we start seeds. Hope you enjoy growing your own.
Thanks for joining us for the South Central Regional Library video. See you on the next one.